I have prepared some questions, but there will also be time for taking questions from the audience. So I see that now we are live.
Yep, and I'm going to go ahead and start the recording.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. And in the meantime, I'm going to start sharing screen. I'm going to open the chat. Just a quick checkup. Do you hear me and see the screen well? Okay, great. So now officially welcome to the second keynote of this 2021 LASI. My name is Isabel Hilliger, and I am part of the organizing committee of this event. Besides being part of the Solar Executive Committee and current chair of the minor events. And today we have great guests from all over the world. So we have people connecting from Ecuador, people connecting from Australia, early morning there. And here we have a Zoom to the European map, where we have people connecting from Spain, someone from the UK, and as well from Sweden. So I'm keeping the suspense because I want them to introduce themselves. And as I mentioned earlier, today is not necessarily a keynote, it's more about a panel. And the motivation is around solar LASI locals, but as well other events that we have held in cooperation or other events that are building capacities around learning analytics locally. And the motivation is to discuss about local opportunities to get to know more about this field and get to know about techniques, approaches, or problems that are relevant for the field. So I know that Simon has a little bit of history around this. So maybe if you want to share, Simon, with the audience.
Thanks, Isabel. Hi, everybody. I just thought you might be interested to know that the concept of LASI was inspired, in fact, by how the field of cognitive neuroscience got going back in the late 80s. It was a brand new thing. There was techniques like fMRI emerging. A few universities around the world were able to start teaching this and researching it. And they created a summer institute, which came to be called Brain Camp, given the field. And the explicit goal was to bring young emerging scientists together with the few people who are senior enough in the field with the resources to learn how to do this stuff, to learn how to research it, to learn how to teach it, for other senior academics who wanted to move in to meet with senior colleagues and learn how to research and teach this and set up their own research camps, research labs. So that was the inspiration behind this that we got. This was happening in the States. There's a fantastic article about it. I've just dropped the link into the chat. You can look at that later on. But that's where we got the idea of learning analytics summer institutes as we were trying to build this new field. So we're following in great steps. And in that article, you'll read about the great experiences that young researchers had meeting with each other and with senior colleagues.
Thank you, Simon, for sharing that. It's good to reflect, have the time to reflect about where we are coming from, and also like basing that we have built upon the experiences of other fields. We might also motivate other fields to do things differently or to build capacity. And this is also the chance to think about the influence that we want to have locally, but also maybe in other fields. And so the idea is to discuss like broadly drivers and challenges in order to do this. And also you might have further questions and interests. So feel free always to make comments and questions around the chat, as I mentioned earlier. So now this is more like, it is meant to be more like a conversation, but still to make this smooth, it is planned that each panel is going to have the opportunity to introduce themselves and also talk about the events that they have been related, rather working like for a long time or recently. I also like have a couple of questions by myself. And yeah, I thought in a certain point we could use a forum, but we'll use the chat in order to make it more informal and more conversational. And without any further explanations, I would like to go and ask each panelist if they could introduce themselves and talk a little bit about the events that they have been working and organizing. So just as the pictures are set, I'm gonna be calling each other and to hear a little bit from each one of them. So let's start with Alejandra.
So hello, thank you everybody. Hello everybody. Well, I'm Alejandra Martinez Mones from Spain, from the University of Valladolid. And I'm also a member of the Spanish network of learning analytics that was settled down more or less on 2013, so many years ago. And the local event that we are organizing since this year, 2013, is LASI Spain. We have been running them for every year in a row, so we are now in the 9th opportunity to meet each other. It will be held in 3 weeks in Barcelona, and it will be a hybrid event. We come back to the physical as much as the things are allowed in this situation. And do you want me to explain a little bit about the event, or is this enough for the moment? Isabel?
Well, like, is there anything that you think you would add some context? We're gonna then go deeper about each event, but
well, we started this event, you know, in parallel to LASI, the one organized by Solar, and there were some researchers throughout Spain. We were mostly people from technical background, working in learning analytics, but trying to find some colleagues to meet. We really needed to meet each other to share knowledge and this kind of stuff, because we were kind of starting this new field. Some of us were coming from different other fields related, no, like CSCL, artificial intelligence in education, people that just came from their, you know, computer science department. And all of us, I think, were willing to share the knowledge and to meet each other. At that point, we were younger. So we were young people trying to, you know, learn a lot as well. And that was the main, I don't know, we really needed, you know, this sense of community. And it was very good that LASI was organized at the global level, so that it became the opportunity, you know, to meet with other people through the remote connections that were settled down for that for the first events, and then physically with the local people that were not many people, but it was a good starting point.
thank you, Alejandra. I imagine that there was a lot of like this piece of sense of community, maybe also in the other experiences that are gonna be shared. And by saying that, I'm gonna give the pass to Jorge Maldonado. What?
Okay, first of all, good afternoon, good morning, good night, Isabel, and a warm greeting to each of the panelists who are with us today, and all of the people that take their time also and are with us. So a special thanks to Solar for the invitation also to this great LASI event. As Isabel mentioned, my name is Jorge Maldonado, and I am professor and researcher at the University of Cuenca in Ecuador. I work in the Faculty of Engineering, and I have been working as a teacher for more or less 10 years at my university. And thanks to the European Erasmus Plus LALA project and the consortium of universities that were part of this project, we have been able to create a community of more than 200 researchers and professors from different countries in Latin America, which we have called the LALA community. And regarding the events, also with Isabel, we have been involved in the organization of the first 3 LALA conferences that were held in Ecuador from 2 occasions in 2018 and 2020, and one was held in Chile in 2019. Also, the past year, we have carried the first LASI local in Cuenca in my university, but in a virtual mode. So as a result, we have managed to reach in the 3 conference an audience more or less of 12 countries in Latin America, who have contributed about more or less 80 or 90 articles in the 3 editions. So for us, for Latin America, it's a pleasure to be here with you, sharing our experiences.
Thank you, Jorge. Yeah, as I mentioned, that's a closer group for me as well. And without any further delay, Olga, if you could introduce yourself and also share what experiences you have had.
Yeah, so my name is Olga Wiber and I work at KTH, Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden. I work for the Department or Division of Human-Centered Design. Personally, I do have pretty interdisciplinary background in learning sciences, PhD in informatics, and also language education. So I'm like LA community coming from different parts of different subject or disciplines. We have been organizing Nordic LASI events for its 4th time this year. So it was originally organized in Norway in Bergen, then offered in Copenhagen in 2018, then 2019 in Estonia, Tallinn. And it was supposed to be organized 2020 in Stockholm, KTH, but due to this pandemic situation, we have been moving it forth and back since people wanted really to meet physically. So we currently offering in 2 months, or not 2 months, so 1.5 months, basically, online event at KTH with a follow-up event in June 2020 at the same place at KTH, since people still want to come and meet physically. But I guess I will talk about it a little bit later as well. We do also organize learning analytics research seminars in between these bigger local events, just to make people meet more often, to share the experiences, to organize the networks. But the main idea behind these Nordic LASI events was to build a community of practice networking, since we are pretty isolated. In Nordic countries, we are not that many, and we would like, to share the experience between four different countries. But I guess I talk a bit later again, so thanks again for inviting me here.
Thank you, Olga, as well. And another experience, but maybe different from Europe, might be brought by Rebecca. So Rebecca, if you want to start.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rebecca Ferguson. I'm based at the Open University in the UK. The Open University is a distance learning university, which has been going for more than 50 years now. So a lot of what we've always known about our students, we've known from data, we've known from surveys, which meant that we moved very quickly when the field of learning analytics first emerged. At that time, Simon was working at the Open University as well. So you'll know Simon is an absolute leading figure in learning analytics, really kicking things off. So we've always been lucky to have a really strong presence there. And we've got a big team working on learning analytics now. The first keynote by Thea Herodotou, she works alongside me at the OU. So we've got a really strong interest in learning analytics. And right from the beginning, we were interested in trying to expand the community. This was before LASIs had been invented. So back in 2012, we were running an event called a solar flare. That's what they were called back in those days. And we got 50 people together at the Open University to share what they were doing in learning analytics. And out of that sprang a grant bid, which formed the Learning Analytics Community Exchange, which was a big project across Europe. And so one of the things that I'm going to be talking about later is about a workshop on learning analytics across Europe workshop that we held as part of that project. And the LACE project, that funding for that finished, but it's built into a SIG of solar, Alejandra's involved in that as well. And so it's now the Learning Analytics Community Europe. So out of that first flare back in 2012, we've still got a community going.
Thanks, Rebecca. And now going back to Simon.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, so I'm at the University of Technology, Sydney, and I'm leading a group called the Connected Intelligence Centre. And our focus is fundamentally on how data and analytics and now AI can transform the experience of learning and teaching at the university. So we're a bit like a sort of R&D lab for UTS. But of course, we collaborate widely and we release some of our stuff open source and so forth. So a great place to be. Another little piece of history is that the first LASI local was in 2014 to accompany the second LASI in the States, which was at Harvard. The first one was in Stanford, and then it moved to Harvard. And there was this sense that people who weren't in the States were really missing out. So we coordinated the international LASI local network, and people ran events around the sort of mother event in the States. So the idea was you tuned into keynotes from the States, which might be at a slightly strange time for you, but at least you got to see them. And then you had your own local event. But I think bit by bit, you know, we've sort of broken that link from the US event because it simply didn't really make that much sense. Much better to meet at a time that suited you in your country and, you know, goodness gracious, speak in your own language and have keynotes in your own language. And so I think that's part of the maturation of the field. And that's fantastic to see. Well, now I'm in Australia, of course, I'm involved with LASI, the Australian Learning Analytics Summer Institute, which obviously doesn't meet in June or July, but in Australian summertime, which is usually, you know, November, around about November or early December. And we started Australian LASIs in 2013. Yeah, in fact, yeah, they had their first event in I think October, November after the Stanford event. So in fact, they were the first day LASI just because of the way the seasons went, I think. I came over here in 2014 and we hosted it at UTS, and it's since been running more or less every year since. We have around about 100 people. There's quite a big learning analytics community down here. We're all here for the beach, obviously.
That's great.
Okay, back to you,
Simon.
Isabel.
Yes, thank you for that. I'm going to stop sharing so we can see each other. And now maybe the follow-up question would be, in a moment, yeah, we were discussing because a lot of you already mentioned some motivations to start organizing these local events, this need for building a community, people coming from different fields, and also to create like a critical mass around this topic. So maybe we can move more to a question about challenges and what has been challenging, what is challenging now, and maybe for those that have more history organizing these events, what was more challenging in the beginning. So maybe just to make it more informal, does anyone from the panelists want to start with this question?
Well, I mean, I don't mind kicking off. You know, so look, we have to build community. You don't just build a field by writing papers and reading papers and meeting once a year at LAC, even though we're doing that virtually at the moment, wasn't enough. You have to create grassroots in your community, in your context. Different countries, different regions are at different states of maturity, and having people you can talk to and having a sense of belonging, right? It's just like with students, we need a sense of belonging. And if you're a new academic trying to decide whether, is this learning analytics thing something for me? You know, am I going to commit my career to this? Am I going to start going to these events, spending my scarce conference money to go to LAC? Am I going to target learning analytics journals? You have to have a sense that this is a bunch of people you want to hang out with and that they're talking your language. And so that for me was always a very important aspect, right? this is a very important thing about who we are as academics, who we are as researchers or practitioners.
Who would like to complement that? Or
Okay, from the other side of the world in Latin America, one of the first challenges that we have faced is try to join people from all of Latin America. We have seen that some people have made some contributions to LAC. Even we have made a kind of a state of the art in which we thought that from Latin America there are some contributions. However, the creation of this multidisciplinary network of teachers, researchers, just to promote joint activities of learning analytics in higher education institutions, are trying to seek some benefits, for example, disseminations of researchers' works, also to try to provide access to community tools and data. For example, right now, a lot of people wants that somebody share, for example, some interesting data sets in order to make some research. Also to grant access to the people to the deliverables of the LALA project, for example, in the case of Latin America, and run different training through face-to-face or online workshops that help people to understand what is and what is not learning analytics. Because sometimes in Latin America, we have seen that people are confused regarding learning analytics and learning or data analysis, for example. So learning analytics is a deeper meaning, and try to make this feedback to the learning process more specific, using technology and in a data-driven mode, more or less. And also the creation of the network, one challenge, for example, is that we are receiving contributions in our mother tongue, that is Spanish, and also in Portuñol or Portuguese, because we have here, Brazil is a huge community, 200 million of people. So the first step is try to see the work of each other and start collaborating between us.
thank you, Jorge. So that Alejandra has unmuted also Olga before, so we can go Alejandra and then Olga.
So following what Simon was saying before, something that was not a challenge, but something that promoted the community is the fact that it's not only that you speak the same language, but that you do it in the same context. So we share something that is common to all of us, maybe, which is our educational system, which is quite relevant in learning analytics. And well, some things that are the same. No, we are academics in the same world and things like that, that put you together with people that understand you very well, no, and may help you very well. So that's something that is quite positive about it, and that makes us feel members of a group that helps each other, that where we can feel, you know, this sense of community we are talking about. Something that is more a challenge is that at the same time, we also need to, well, we have the need to go international, no? To share our knowledge with the rest of the community. And sometimes it's not easy to find the time to do everything. So sometimes you prefer just to go to LAC or to write your papers in English and share with the rest of the people in the international community. Some challenge was that at the beginning we were like trying to look for ways of finding each other and meet other groups to work together. And sometimes this is not easy because we are too similar to each other. So this was some kind of a hope that we didn't achieve, although there are people that are collaborating in different projects as well. So it went well and bad, depending. And another challenge, well, challenge is time, of course. And it is very good if you have a project or something that pushes you to do the work. We have had funding from our national agency for twice. We are now having this funding, and of course it makes things much better because you have the money and you have the need to do it and to report about it. So it's a big a big push for the network.
Yeah, that also happened to us as well in our region. Olga, you wanted to add something. So
yeah, something. I think one of the not change, but an issue is that I do not talk about only Sweden. We are talking about several different countries represented in Nordic context, and there is some good things and some challenging things. So good thing that many of the Nordic countries, or most of them, they do share similar cultural values, for example, of openness, transparency, and trust. And this is something that can unite us, for example, in the implementation of learning analytics projects, which is a good thing. A challenge is that we are spread geographically, and we do have some stronger researcher groups here and there. Sometimes we can hear like more on international level compared to the national level, so we have to meet. So original idea was to build a community of practice, to meet people, to let them network, and challenge was not only to organize like one LASI in a year, but also try to make some kind of follow-up events in between that. So this year we also offered a joint PhD course in learning analytics across 4 countries. So we had I think around 25 students, doctoral students from Norway, Finland, Denmark, and Sweden, and offered it's a collaborative effort from all the countries, which I think was really beneficial for not only us, but also for PhD students who are building these networks. Yeah, I think I can talk a little bit later if someone else would like to jump in.
No, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's true that, so in a way, there are cultural times, there is time, but also there is this interest to engage, particularly doctoral students. Like Simon mentioned earlier, there is this chance to also have them the opportunity to get to know the field and to explore an academic trajectory within it. And well, Alejandra mentioned this aspect of the project. So maybe Rebecca, you want like to add something related to how projects help to enable certain events, or maybe regarding challenges, whatever comes to mind.
In terms of challenges, I was thinking that these things work at different scales. So when we're at the main LASI, or when we're at LAC, we're talking at a really international scale. A lot of the LASI locals, we're talking at a national scale. But then there's the sort of the broader context, and that's one of the things that Jorge was talking about there, of bringing people together across several countries in the region. And that's one of the things that we've had to do in Europe, that we're not only talking about the individual countries, a lot of the grant funding comes from Europe as a whole. We're encouraged to form consortia, working with people from different countries, combining industry, practitioners, different groupings, different universities. And so we need that sort of middle ground where we come together. And something which has emerged over the last decade is how contextual learning analytics can be, that they're really affected by sometimes quite subtle aspects of context and sometimes larger ones. So we've mentioned different languages already, but also different countries have different attitudes to data and how happy they are about sharing that data. And especially if a country's got a record somewhere in the past of data being badly misused, the people there will be very, very wary about sharing their data and how it's used. Different countries have different attitudes to authority. They've got different education systems, and they've got different ways of going about pedagogy. So we need to be aware of those things, and that's one of the ways that the sort of the continental meetings, like across Europe, Not so much across Australia, because I think it's more similar across Australia, but certainly across South America, certainly across Asia. You need these cross-border links, and they're more difficult to make.
Yeah, it's true about like in a way we need to grow as a community internationally, and we have these large events, but also how you build capacity in your context, and your context could be, it's different if you approach it at the national level rather than crossing borders. So thinking about that, like a challenge that we have, and it's a challenge that I feel particularly comfortable because of being chair of minor events within Solar, it's to also motivate some regions or countries that have not necessarily developed like a local event yet, but might have the interest about thinking of starting their own events. There might be people even here in LASI that have like gained interesting skills through LASI and want to share that with their community, but might be thinking, oh, how do I do that? Like, so if we wanted to like bring together a recipe of like how to start this type of event in a region that has not explored this, what recommendations would you do? And I leave the floor open to whoever wants to jump in.
Well, Solar is very happy, of course, to assist any group that wants to get going. You know, that's a core part of Solar's mission. You're not on your own. Find a few colleagues and you can start a LASI local. And when we started out, we said to people, your LASI local could be a national or regional gathering, or it could be you and 3 colleagues in your company or institution. And you're just going to get together, put aside a day or whatever, and start talking learning analytics in whatever way makes sense for you in your context. So you could start really small. And this is also a great opportunity to start playing a leadership role, in your community at whatever scale you feel comfortable or ready to stretch yourself on.
Thank you for that. That is true. Like it could be just like there is guidelines and support that could be provided by Solar, and a community just could take 2 or more. So then you build like the critical mass. Olga.
I just want to add that maybe to think to involve stakeholders directly in such events, either teachers, students, not only researchers. And I think this is something that we will try this year. So we invited some EdTech representatives to talk. We invited some other people just to, and the challenge there will be what language we are talking, like what language we will use when trying to communicate to these people, because they will not understand our language. And we were like thinking, kind of, okay, we invite these teachers, we invite these EdTech representatives, but we have really to change our presentations in a way that will be understandable for them. But I think it's a good idea to start thinking about stakeholders not only the researchers in such type of events.
Thank you for that, Olga. That's a huge, it was a point that was kind of like in our reflections as well, like what is the targeted audience? And that's something that you need to think depending on, but in a way, there is this invite to be broader, like to think beyond what would be the obvious. Jorge or then Rebecca?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Sorry.
No worries.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Just a brief. In our case, in Latin America, we start trying to make an alphabetization of learning analytics. So, for example, we have joined to a specific private university in order to open a program in learning analytics for Latin America specifically. We are trying to connect, for example, professionals from different places to start learning about learning analytics and how to implement, for example, this file in their works in order to get benefits from the research and the scientific public. So in this case, we are trying to produce also some digital material and trying, for example, to do some webinars in order to try to join people. I think if you have in your universities or in your city 2 or 3 people that are interested in learning analytics, just pick up a coffee and start talking about it and invite to join others and talk about Solar, the LASI events. And for us, the case, when I was studying for my PhD studies, for example, I have an invitation from Javier Ochoa, who told me that in Harvard in 2014, there will be the first LASI local, and I was very excited to attend. Also, those LASIs are organized in a wonderful places. So this is a great invitation to go to that place and also learn more things about it.
Thank you, Jorge. Yeah, actually, yeah, in the region there has been interest of like corporative learning analytics. So even thinking about stakeholders, there is also a world of learning within organizations and the workforce that even goes beyond of like, yeah, schools and higher education. It's mainly what we have dedicated our field. Rebecca.
Sometimes when you're starting things up, it's good to look for other organisations who can help you out. I mean, in the UK, we've got GISC, which supports lots of higher education initiatives. They've been really supportive around learning analytics. In fact, they have a lot of local meetups. In the Netherlands, SURF have worked to bring ideas together about learning analytics. I know in Korea there's another network, and in some countries government departments are often willing to help out with this sort of thing. So it's not necessarily something you have to do all by yourself. You can look out for help, for publicity, perhaps even a bit of sponsorship.
Thank you, Rebecca. That widens like this idea of like stakeholders as well, not only as beneficiaries, but also as contributors in a way of like making this possible. I see, Simon, that you have your hand up.
Yeah, if I could just jump in, what Olga was saying, I thought was really interesting. So like this early concept of the brain camp, you know, for cognitive neuroscience, that was very much about starting a new academic field, which barely had a network, you know, and of course they have grown up. Learning analytics is no longer at that stage in the sense that there is now a community, there's a conference, there's a journal. But we are really concerned to impact the products that are going to be coming out, right? It's through products that 99% of educators and students are going to experience learning analytics. So bringing in the EdTech vendors to your LASI local is a really great thing to do, because you have to learn how they think. They have to learn how we think. We're trying to raise the game. We're trying to raise the quality of conversation here about what they do with data and what they think a good dashboard is like. They need to know what we think a good dashboard is like. And they're basically the people who need to be hiring you when you've got your PhD, because they realize they need someone like you in their company, right? So I would really encourage that. You know, we're not here just to create a field that provides power tools for learning scientists to study education and learning as a phenomenon. We're here to change the experience of teaching and learning, and that's going to be through the vendors primarily.
Thank you, Simon. I know Alejandra is also with her hand up, so please.
Okay, I do like this. Yeah, well, I was thinking two different things. One of them is following what you were mentioning. I think that for making these local events meaningful, you need to know what is specific, no? For what makes it valuable. And the community thing is very important, but also this idea of trying to make impact in your context. And yeah, the only way of making any impact is to join strength with other people, you know, and also try to invite other stakeholders that may altogether provoke a kind of change, no? Because normally a research group doesn't have that power, and maybe the networks doesn't have it, but it's kind of a way, of reflecting how can we make an impact in our context, which is more local and more shared than when we meet together with other people at an international level. That's one thing. And the other is about an opportunity that we have now for people that are thinking on organizing their small local event. I think that after the pandemic, we have become familiar with online events that will become hybrid events in the future, hopefully. So I think the support from the community can come also from there, that people can have a physical meeting with people from their local community, but have some interventions from somebody in the network, in the full solar support system that helps them open up their minds to other different things and things like that. And I think that's a very, very strong opportunity we have to.
Thank you, Alejandra. Yeah, like I think we have a lot of elements thinking about a recipe. Like in a way, there is the experience of looking to other fields or to what other people are doing, also like learning from what you have done and how projects have pushed in a way to motivate people to create community, and then to broaden that definition of community, because it could be not only teachers and researchers, it could be people that are culturally relevant to pay an influence in what we are doing. Also, it could be another organizations, it could be vendors or technology providers. And also now, like in a way, with all this support, you could build your own community, thinking about these stakeholders and how you want to start, but you also have a support system in order to go further. So yeah, there is a question that is for you, Simon. So, and I see your hand up. So, so if you want to.
Oh, you mean this field-defining question about where I get my shirt from?
Yes, but it's related in a way.
This was only available to people who are at Michigan for LASI in Michigan. But yeah, I think Solar needs to produce a LASI shirt that goes to everybody who registered for any LASI. I just wanted to make one point, which was I think one of the really important things about LASI, the vision for it wasn't just a local conference where people stood up and gave talks. LASI is not meant to be mini LAC. LASI was always about trying to equip you to actually go back to your lab with a new technique that you were ready to start trying out. And that's why we've really focused on tutorials and hands-on stuff, with one or two keynotes to sort of provide big picture stuff. But, it's very much about equipping people. And I think that's what makes it really distinctive. And that's what really helps build the field, because if you feel confident with something, you might put that into your PhD, put that into your next paper. You start to become a virus in the best possible way within your own community, because you can show your colleagues how to do this, right? And that's how it picks up. It's also the case that, professors, associate professors, as they get more and more senior, they have less and less time to learn new tools. They are looking to the early career researchers to get up to speed with that stuff, show them how it's useful, show them how it advances the research program. So, you guys are absolutely the sort of engine for the future. And that's why LASI has the flavor that it does.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Like, I know we have 10 minutes and I would like to give some time also for maybe if there are announcements from the organizers. I would say that, yeah, it's true that there is this combination of hands-on activities, but also at least what we have faced in our region is that because there is also this interest in doing papers or something in your own language, that you sometimes find a way in order to merge like workshops with also like small conference and in a way also like having keynotes, but in your language, like actually providing like the spotlight to people that have been a relevant researcher within your region. But totally, I think that there is this need that even in certain regions, depending on how you are, a conversation about it or what you have learned, it's the way to start and make awareness of like the potential benefits that learning analytics might have. So just complementing what Simon has said, is there any further question within the audience. Maybe, Nicole, if you want to, you can allow people to unmute themselves. Is there anyone who would have a question for the panel or a particular member of the panel? I know that this kind of
Maybe I can ask a question to people here about whether they feel something is missing that would make LASI even better than it already is.
Okay, so now it's on you guys. So whoever wants to, yeah, people are still requesting for the t-shirts.
Free beer.
Okay.
You can always trust these students to come out with the wrong answer.
Yeah, Alan, you have a question.
Thank you. I have a question. I would like to see more discussion or more research on technology acceptance of learning analytics for several stakeholders, coming from the information system, using the TAM model. How would teachers do they accept to work with learning analytics? The students, how do they perceive this technology or method? I think that could be an interesting approach, because I'm from the field of gamification. It's not a plug and play solution, I tell you that. Educational gamification is problematic, and there are several stakeholders in the educational environment that you have to address in several ways. So just a thought, more discussions on acceptance or adoption of learning analytics in learning environments. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. There is also a comment from Elizabeth in the chat. Would you like to make that comment, Elizabeth, or do you prefer that I read it for you?
Sure. I just post things because I'm very chatty. I don't want to hog the microphone. But what I said was the only thing I can think that could make LASI even better would be longer access to these groups that form around the tutorials and workshops, so we can have longer conversations about what we're learning. The thing that I think really makes LASI so valuable as a complement to LAC is the longer format of the activities, the workshops that span several days, tutorials that are longer than just 20 minutes of a presentation or something. Even the best presentations that try to get everybody engaged can't do as much as you can do in an hour-and-a-half tutorial or a workshop that spans a couple of days. But I'd like to continue the conversation and start to form communities around some of these ideas a little bit more.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, we have I give a deep thought about there is this challenge now, we want to spend a lot of time with each other, but also it's the challenge of bringing people together virtually, but there is also time zones and other challenges. So we might it's interesting to think about, to explore ways in order to keep connected regardless of time zones, locations.
Yeah, I'm really thinking asynchronous here. Keep the Slack chat up longer, or have a permanent discussion area where some of these topics, people can keep coming back to them and say, hey, I tried this idea that I learned about at LASI over the summer, and here's what's happening during the implementation. Has anyone else run into this? Or maybe somebody else can use this idea that I came across, or that kind of thing.
Thank you for that. We have 4 minutes. I just want to make sure that concerning the organization, we don't go on top of schedule. So what do we have next before we officially close? If maybe anyone. wants to make an announcement of what we have upcoming? Well, we have the second tutorials, right?
Yes, so the second batch of tutorials for today will happen right after this, T2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay.
I've also said in the chat that there is a general learning analytics Slack channel that is meant to share resources, events, jobs, things like that. And also the Google group is also a place that people really discuss and converse about projects and collaboration. So those are two things that would be useful to Elizabeth's comment.
Thank you, Nicole, for complementing that. And considering the few minutes that we have left, I would like to first thank all our panelists. At least for me, it has been really insightful. I have an important responsibility about trying to build community around minor events from different formats. And for me, it has been really insightful. I appreciate, because I know that people are connecting from different places with different challenges within from where they are located or time zone. And I hope it was fruitful for you as well, for the panelists and the audience. I don't know if anyone wants to do like a closing comment, maybe a short closing comment from the panelists. If anyone wants to jump in, please do. But before you do that, I'm really, really thankful, and I thank you on behalf of the LASI organizing committee and Solar and the broad community as well.
I think if anyone's wanting to organise a LASI local and they're a little bit hesitant about it, I'm sure any of the panellists would be willing to talk to them and give support if necessary. So we've already said the support from Solar, but if you want to talk to somebody who's already done this, I'm sure we'd be willing to talk to you about it.
So I see thumbs up.
And maybe the last comments, I think it's good year to try to join different LASIs, since many are offered online or hybrid. So you don't need to travel across. So if you have an opportunity, join different local LASIs and see how they're organized, basically.
Thank you. Yeah, that is true. And throughout Solar, we disseminate them through our newsletter, from any channel that we have. So keep your eye posted on the upcoming events. Well, LASI Spain is around the corner, so we actually share it through Slack. And I know that LASI Nordic has like 2 instances, and whenever you also want us to disseminate, we also can do that as well. So that's great. Any other closing comments, Simon?
Just a closing thought is that, I mean, LASIs are meant, your LASI local is meant to be a friendly, supportive place. You know, you don't have to write a peer-reviewed journal paper or whatever, conference paper to get in. So it's a good place to come and show works in progress. You know, if you've been trying a new analytic technique and you want to talk about it, show it, get feedback, it's a great place to come and do that, you know, and preparing, just doing the little bit of preparation you would do before you did that. That's good groundwork for building up to something that you may want to start sharing within your own university. Ironically, sharing it with friendly colleagues in other universities may be a better first step before you expose yourself within your own institution. So think about it like that. You know, this is really a place to sound out ideas and try and find other people who care about the same stuff as you.
Thank you, Simon. So we're 6 p.m. on the clock. Well, 6 p.m. it's me. What I mean is that we are in right on time. So if Alejandra, well, I see that Alejandra and Jorge are already disseminating through the chat. So yeah, whoever wants to post a link there, take advantage that we have a wide audience. But thank you, everyone. Big thanks to the panelists, and also to all the newcomers to LASI and the ones that have keep engaged in order to keep this community going. So bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. I enjoyed this a lot.